So that first time didn't record, but anyway, we're going to be doing a player profile over Leo Carlsson, a guy that is going to be a very interesting player in this upcoming draft. But before we start, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to my channel. If not, no big deal. Now let's get into talking about Leo Carlsson. So Carlsson is already a guy that is playing at a pro level in the SHL and is a player that is capable of playing multiple positions already, which is great, and likely is going to be the highest drafted Swedish player since Rasmus Dahlin was selected in 2018 with the first overall pick. Now let's talk about the past 2 seasons for him. The Swede has played 79 games in the SHL the past 2 years with Örebro. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. But anyway, in the time he has 13 goals and 21 assists for 34 points in that span. And got a lot of junior time for them, playing kind of like a Division II thing. But again, getting that critical professional experience before some other guys already have. But now, what are some pros of his game? I think the biggest thing right away that sticks out is his size. He's 6'3", and he is listed as 194 pounds. He's probably going to come into the regular season if he ends up coming over and, getting on the roster, all the good stuff, and being over 200 pounds. He's in a good spot compared to some other guys that are a little bit lighter. Mishkov is one of those guys that I think his weight has kind of been discussed a little bit, that might have to, put on some weight extensively in the NHL before he is ready to really take over, as some people expect, whereas Carlsson is a guy that probably will be in a good shape to not be pushed around early on in his career. Also, I think a good thing for him is the fact that he's able to stay relevant with or without the puck. He's a guy that, of course, is going to be a strong net front presence, but I think one thing that I really like about him is if he doesn't have the puck, he either sets himself up for an opportunity to get a goal later on the same position, or he sets up his teammates later by what he's able to do. And you see that a lot. A lot of people talk about off-ball movement for basketball in recent years, but just in general, a lot of sports, you're seeing that where instead of being more one-dimensional and you just stand there and you get your opportunity, a lot of these guys are moving around a little bit more, and Carlsson is a great example of that. If you're, one of those guys like Ovi, you can stand there in the office and fire the puck all day. That's going to be fine. But I do like the fact that he is able to get around and put effort in that way. But another good thing about his game is he's a good puck handler. And I think for a guy his size, it's kind of surprising. But with him being a player that can really get up in front of the net, he does handle the puck really well. And could be one of those guys that is just harassing goalies down low and able to use his skill with the puck to be able to get some goals for his team, which is a great thing. The cons of his game. Probably speed is the first thing that comes to mind. When you think of some of these younger guys that are bigger players, you wonder about their skating, their stride. I'm not saying that he's a terrible skater, but I am saying right away you don't notice him as a guy that's going to be a McDavid level player. And I know we always say don't compare him to the guys like that, but he's not going to be a real speedster as of right now in my opinion. So at the NHL level, you're hoping that his puck handling skills are good enough to be able to get past this, and he probably will be all right. Again, he's got a big frame, so he can use that extension of his body to get past defenders, but we will see. Another thing is, can he be an effective goal scorer away from the net? Especially early on in his career, he might be one of those guys that has the frame but isn't able to really work his way and bully down low towards the net to be able to get some good looks for goals. Is he going to be able to continue to score goals for his team away from the net? Kind of remains to be seen, but I do think, like I said, with one of his pros being he's always moving, or at least he tends to want to move around and get a better opportunity. I don't think that's going to be the end-all be-all. The final thing is more away from the ice. He might struggle away from home. I was reading some articles about him, and he ended up moving away from his hometown to play for the SHL team, and it sounds like he did pretty well there, but he did miss his family. Now he's going to be moving to a whole different continent and is also going to be a whole ocean away. Will that be an issue? I don't exactly know. He's young, could be homesick. We'll have to see there and how that impacts his rookie season or his first few years. What are some teams that could want him? Personally, right now, I think it does look like Columbus or San Jose will take him in the draft. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, he might slip out of the top 4, maybe he'll go 5, 6, whatever. Columbus seems to like him a lot. It seems to be that is a report a lot of people are coming out with, that the Jackets are probably going to try to draft him with the 3rd overall pick. They can kind of play around with it a bit since he has played center and wing at the SHL. They have film of that. They can kind of say, well, this is what we want to do early on, probably throw him out on the wing, and we can kind of just see how it goes before we decide to move him back in. But it remains to be seen, as the Sharks also reportedly are okay taking a risk on Mishkov. So if Carlsson falls, will that kind of push some things around of the draft? That remains to be seen. player comparison. According to the UnionandBlue.com, they are comparing him to Alexander Barkov, and I think the big difference here is Sasha has a little bit more of a speed element to his game, but I do see it as these two guys that are a little bit bigger, and they are guys that are able to get in close on the net and use their puck handling abilities to score goals. If that transitions and you have a guy like Barkov for Carlsson, that would be fantastic, but I'm not going to say it's an exact fit, but again, it's always tough to say, oh, this is a right fit, but bigger guys that are able to handle the puck well, so yeah, we'll say that fits there. Overall, I think that Carlsson is in a great spot to succeed early on, or at least not have some of those early struggles. A guy like Tim Stützle a few years ago really had to grow a little bit to where I think he was getting pushed around. Carlsson's not going to be one of those guys. I think this build allows him to kind of focus more on the skill aspects of the game early on compared to some other guys saying, hey, we got to put on some weight, focus on the gym, stuff like that. And I will say another thing, though, is he's going to have to adjust to North American ice. Not a big deal. European players have to, but that is one of those things you have to watch out for. I do think a big thing that's in his favor right now is compared to some other guys, especially a lot of these top guys in the draft, he is viewed as a much more defensively impactful player, at least a guy that's less of a liability, because I think he thinks of the game a little bit differently than some of these other guys where they're more, I got to get the puck, I have to be able to score a lot of points here. He seems to be a guy that's a little bit more focused on having a more balanced game. Not always a bad thing, because to have a guy that's younger, that's not going to be an absolute defensive liability, is a great thing for any team as they try to expose him more minutes, kind of play around where do they want him, 5-on-5, of course. He's going to play there. Do they want to throw him out on the PK? All those things remain to be seen, but I do think he could very well have a good debut and could have a highlight package of just pushing around competition that tries to push him around. But what are your thoughts on Carlsson? Where do you think he gets taken this year in the draft? Do you think he'll have a good year? When do you think he'll debut? All that good stuff. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And Eagle of Hockey, all right. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.